On the road as per usual, getting my Saturday errands done. I am not sure if I updated my reading schedule for today. So if you had a reading scheduled with me for today, I don't think I went in and updated that schedule. So we will have to reschedule because I have a short road trip that I have to make today, which is what I'm in the process of doing right now. So, in the process of doing a short road trip, if you had a consultation, a spiritual consultation scheduled with me today, we will have to reschedule. That's the first thing. Second thing is, I want to discuss the actual foundation for the government and the social structure, the presumed social structure for the United States of America, because I think it's essential for people to know, and I know that most people do not know it. So, the governmental structure of the United States of America is what is generally known as a democracy. This term, democracy, comes from the Greco Roman vernacular. In the Greco Roman world, a democracy was a form of governing by which everyone who was considered a citizen had a vote. The thing about the Greco Roman democracy that was very much copied by the democracy of the United States is that people who were considered citizens, now this in Greco Roman times, only land owning men could be considered citizens. And the flaw, one of the biggest flaws in the American or the United States democratic system is that it began with that same stipulation that people who were considered citizens, certainly the people who wrote the Constitution and the people that the Constitution were written for, the people that the Constitution was written for, because the Constitution clearly states that it is written for ourselves and our posterity. So this group of people who wrote that document were also land owning men. In the United States of America, land owning white men. In Greco Roman times, land owning Romans, because the system that I'm speaking of was a Roman system. So this was considered a democracy. Now, we have been duped by the terms democracy and freedom. And this is why you won't hear me using the word freedom. I use the word freedom very, very rarely because it is a term that has been used to dupe us. It is a term that has been used to make us believe that social ills are going to come to an end or at least be greatly modified by specific movements. But that is not what has happened during those movements towards freedom. And freedom has been kept very vague in our perspective and in our ability to define it. When we talk about freedom, it is vague. So that use of that term freedom and from tyranny and things like that, that comes out of that Roman structure, as well as the term democracy comes out of the Roman structure. So the dupe that we have been given about democracy is that it is a government that is for the people and by the people. That is never what democracy meant in the Greco-Roman world. What democracy meant in the Greco-Roman world was that it is a government that is for the citizens and by the citizens. And people who were citizens were land owning men. So clearly, when we look at government here in the United States, we can see that that was the actual model that was put into place in action, regardless of what was said. What was put into place in action was that same type of government. I should let everyone know at this time that I am driving, so I am not looking at comments. I should also let everyone know that because I am a highly intelligent black woman, men who are unable to have an intellectual discussion with me on my level, who are intellectually beneath me, will be in the comments making trolling statements because that's all that they have. They do not have the intellectual capacity to actually participate in what I'm speaking of, so they will be in the comments making foolish statements to try to distract you from what I'm saying. So that is happening. I can't see it, but I just wanted to make it clear so the people who actually do have the intellectual capacity to listen and to grasp what I'm saying would not be distracted by the trolls in the comments who are, unable to grasp what we're talking about. All right, so the United States prided itself on being the first modern democracy. They considered Rome to be an ancient democracy. However, what is normally very lightly covered is that trying to create a government for the people and by the people and having several branches to a government and also allowing each state to be mostly autonomous in its own governing and even the ability to have a United States was taken from the Haudenosaunee people. These ideas were taken from the Haudenosaunee people. So the Haudenosaunee people are a group and are, not were, but are, a group of indigenous Americans, a group of First Nations people in the United States who consisted of 5 different nations, eventually 6, but originally 5. The Haudenosaunee people were led by the clan mothers. So this type of governing is a matriarchal form of governing. This is a type of governing that comes from the rich inner world of brown women. Dark brown, too, right? If we were to see them today, we would call them black. And some of them that we seeing right now, we calling them black, but indigenous First Nations people of this land were what we would currently call black, but out of respect and not trying to appropriate their culture into a pan-African culture because it is not African, I am calling them brown. But if you please do your research and look and see what the original and indigenous people of this place look like, and it is what we would currently call black. So let's go back. So the Haudenosaunee people that the French called the Iroquois, that is a French name for these people, it's not the name that they gave themselves. Their name means we all come together in one house. And their form of communicating with each other, their ancient type of written communication was called the wampum. It was like a wampum belt or a wampum scroll, which was like a beaded scroll that they would create. So if you look up the Iroquois Confederacy, this is not what they called it. It is the Haudenosaunee Wampum Belt. This is their original constitution. Then you will get more information around this. But this way of governing was created by the clan mothers. So, 2 things. First thing I want to say is, as much as the Moynihan report, as much as social sciences here in the United States make it seem as though women-led households is some sort of crisis, As much as the Moynihan Report was created to make us believe that women leading households was a crisis in the Black community, the entire government that the United States prides itself on so much is a leadership style that was created by Black women being in leadership positions. So when you hear all that trash talking about single mother led households and all those types of things, know that anybody who is well read and well studied does not believe that. They may be saying it, but they don't believe it. The entire nation is built on single women led governing principles. The entire nation, right? So not only is there nothing wrong with it, but everyone can look at it and see that this is the best way of leading. These people are the best at leadership. So it is in our interest to imitate their style of leadership. So that's the first thing. But let's go back to the clan mothers. So the Haudenosaunee people, like many indigenous people, like most indigenous people, and you've heard me talk about this many times, were of course gynocentric. And they were gynocentric because that is what makes the most sense, right? And we're not going to get into that today. We're just going to speak on the flat out reality of it. So they were gynocentric because that is what makes the most sense. Gynocentric is the term that I use instead of matriarchal because when you say matriarchal, people assume that you mean that women were doing the same thing to other members of society that men do to other members of society under a patriarchy. And that is not how ancient women led societies were ruled. That's not how they were ran. So I prefer to use gynocentric because it lets you know that it was centered around the gyno. It was centered around the mother. It was centered around the womb because that is the source of the all. So that is why I use the term gynocentric. So let's get back to the clan mothers. So when we talk about the clan mothers were the leaders of each clan. The clan is the mother, her children, whoever her children married, the children that her children have once they marry, and the children that those children have. When someone marries into the mother's family, they move into her household. And so the family is traced through the mother line because, in addition to being matriarchal or gynocentric, they were matrilineal. Matrilineal is included in the definition of gynocentric that I use, but for today's purposes, I'll break them up. So, matrilineal, of course, means tracing the line through the mother. Of course, we all know scientifically it makes more sense to trace the line through the mother because it is only mitochondrial DNA that does not change over any time. When you trace your lineage, you're tracing it through the mother because that is the only DNA that is unchanging. So scientifically, look that up. Not a scientist, I'm an artist. These are just things that I know. So you have the clan mothers, and the clan mothers rule over each small. The clans come together to create the nation. And then there is a high clan mother over the nation. Everyone must report to the clan mother. Now, the clan mother did assign other chiefs over other areas. And the clan mother assigned the people that she felt were best suited. If you did not follow her instructions, then she would remove you from your chieftaincy. This is the same among the Anago people, now known as the Yoruba. So this is the society that Europeans found, one of the many matrilineal, gynocentric, matriarchal societies that they found when they got to the United States of America. And they spent much time studying these people. They spent much time studying these people. That in and of it says a lot. Think about that. so that when they to break away from what they considered to be the tyranny of British rule. And when they decided to create a government, it was in this exact same fashion that the Clan Mothers had come up with for the Five Nations. Before the Clan Mothers came up with this style of government that they called for the people, by the people. This is what the Clan Mothers, that's others' mouths, that statement comes. The Haudenosaunee Clan Mothers. So when they came up with this style of government, it was because those five men warring. And the war was devastating of the five nations, right? And it was also making it difficult for them to live where they were because of the fact that, this was going to make it difficult for them to hunt in the areas where they would normally have hunted. This was going to make it difficult for them to grow food or gather food in the areas where they normally would have done that, because being at war means that territories become hostile, and areas that you may have held in common now become hostile. Even areas that you share now become hostile, right? So the wars were devastating the people long term. In the Haudenosaunee communities, obviously, because of how the clans are set up, you cannot marry into your own clan, right? Because you all are related. So another thing that was being devastated by these wars was the population, because it was more difficult to marry out into groups of people that you were at war with. So the clan mothers sat amongst themselves to figure out how to end this war. And there was then a chief that they sent to go to each of the five nations and to present this proposal to create this for the people, by the people, new governing body. And the chief is somebody that you're familiar with, because the chief just happened to be male, and it was Hiawatha. So we were all taught about Hiawatha in elementary school. I don't know whether they're still teaching about him, and how he walked around to different areas. And I don't know what he was famous for doing once Europeans came to pillage this land, but this is what he was doing for the Haudenosaunee people. So he was going around to each nation trying to get them to agree to this coalition, basically, that the clan mothers had come up with. Once everyone agreed, then the coalition was created. The Confederacy was created. The clan mothers, the main clan mother who first came up with the idea, was from a group that was bigger. And so if her group spoke and voted, obviously it would have more votes. So they gave a little less power to that group so that the other groups would feel as though everything was equal. The group that came up with the idea, their area became the central area, became the capital of the nation as well. And so they also, in addition to keep things equal, said that more of that would be in common, right? Meaning that they would share it with the other nations. So I want you to look and see Washington, D.C. was not originally a state. It may still not be a state because it was the capital, right? This exact protocol that the Haudenosaunee clan mothers came up with is what was used to structure the government of the United States of America. This exact protocol that was created in the minds of dark brown women, indigenous women, right, who were the leaders of their community. A woman-led community, a dark brown woman-led community, was the creators of the government that the United States copied for its style of government, for its branches, and for the amount of autonomy that each state has. It's essential to study, right? Study is essential. If you do not take the time to dive into and to learn more about where you are, to learn more about the origins of the place where you find yourself, to learn more about the people from the place where you find yourself, then you will be left paying homage to people who don't deserve it. So we give all honor in this country to those founding fathers who did not come up with anything. They did not create anything. They took a black woman's governing style, an indigenous black woman way of thinking and being and interacting in the world, and they slapped a Greco-Roman name on it, and then they took credit for it and are still taking credit for it today. And of course, the piece that they could not duplicate was putting women in charge. Of course, the piece that they could not duplicate in particular was putting dark brown or black women in charge. Of course, I would say again here, I am using the term black to denote a phenotype. I do not mean people who descend from sub-Saharan Africa. That is not where the Haudenosaunee people came from. Haudenosaunee people are native, indigenous, and are the people of this land, of the United States. In phenotype, please go and do your research. Their look is what we would call black in this day and time, and that is important. It is important to say that, and so I will continue to say it, right? And people can get mad, people can feel however they want to feel. I am not co-opting these people's culture. I do not believe in co-opting anybody's culture, but I am going to talk about the phenotype, because we have been taught that nothing good can come out of this phenotype. We have been taught that nothing intelligent comes out of this phenotype. We have been taught that nothing useful and nothing that is modern and nothing that is used in the modern world came from this phenotype. So part of what I am doing by sharing this history with you guys is tearing those myths out the frame, is making sure that nobody sits here and is still believing those myths. That's part of what I'm doing on purpose, by making sure that you know that. So these were dark brown women, what I consider to be part of what I call the ancestral mothers, who created the entire style of government that the United States, that those quote unquote founding fathers stole and imitated and took credit for when they were creating the United States. This is the entire foundation of what we now call the United States of America. Of course, the parts of the parts of the Greco-Roman government that they were following dictated that they could not have women in charge, and the parts of just, racism that they created in order to rape and pillage this place, and in order to bring our ancestors from West Africa to create this empire, dictated that black people could not be in charge. But outside of that, everything that they laud and magnified so highly about this government, everything that they laud and magnified so highly about this democracy, was actually a Haudenosaunee woman-led, woman head of household way of life. The amount of times that these people spend bad mouthing women heads of households, when you are sitting right here living in a country whose greatest asset was created by women-led head of households. Right? The amount of time you spend bad mouthing exactly what you out here imitating, exactly what you out here trying to be like, exactly what you out here trying to pretend that you are. So while you bad mouthing women head of household, secretly you behind the scenes trying to do what they do, trying to do what we do. Let me not exclude myself from that, being woman head of household type of woman myself, being raised by a woman head of household woman who was also raised by a woman head of household woman. So we get so much smoke. But everything that y'all do, y'all's whole government, is based on a way of life that we created. That's wild to me. And that's serious information that we need to have. That's serious information that we need to keep in our mind, because what happens when you realize that you are the empire builder is that it makes you more sure of your own decisions. And everybody is not going to understand what is happening. Is this the thing? Yeah, oh, it is. Everybody is not going to understand the decisions that you have to make. A lot of times people will not agree with the decisions that you have to make. Most of the times people are going to try to denigrate you for the decisions that you have to make. Hold on. What can I get started for you? Yes, can I have a grande? Can you hear me? Yeah. Can I have a grande chai tea latte with almond milk, please? Gotcha. And that's it. Nice and neat. All right. All right. Gotcha. And yes, I am a Starbucks, but I gotta have some Starbucks for the road, y'all. Like I said, I gotta make a little road trip. And I didn't make myself any chai before I left, so I'm grabbing some chai down to the Starbucks. But y'all know I don't usually. First of all, I don't usually even drink anything with caffeine, but definitely don't usually be at Starbucks. But as I was saying, when you have this type of information, and when you look around you and see what that was able to create and what that was able to build, then it gives you the ability to be more confident in your decision making skills. As I said in the video I made, where women are going around saying, I will submit to the right man if the right man comes along, saying that you will submit to a man is speaking with the understanding that he has a higher intellectual aptitude than you do. Most things that happen within this patriarchal society, this white imperialist, what is it, white masculinist imperialist society, most things that happen within this society are with the understanding that men have a higher intellectual aptitude, right? So when you are moving through your life as a woman, even if you know you're intelligent, even if you are like, well, I researched this, I did this, and I did that, there is a built-in tendency for you to think that your aptitude is less. So I'm giving you this information to help you understand that this entire country, this entire mode of government came from the mind of black women. Right? Look at this ignorant troll in the comments. They do not have the intellectual aptitude to participate in the discussion. So all that they can do is yell out ignorance. This person in the comment is a perfect example of the type of people that we are better fit to rule than. An intelligent conversation is going on, and this is all that this person has to add to it that lets you know who's intellectually superior. Hi. Alrighty. Thank you. Also, when are they gonna bring the satanic Starbucks cups back? Remember Starbucks cups that was just all red and everybody was swearing up and down that they were satanic? I loves to give me a good old satanic Starbucks cup. I love them all red cups. But anyway, I digress. And I'm being facetious for those who feel away. Even though Lucifer himself has been misrepresented to y'all too, but that's a topic for another day. But anyway, anyway, as I was saying, I'm giving you this information so that you can cure yourself from the sickness of believing that because you were born with a vagina or because you walk through the world as a femme individual, that your intellectual capacity is less. than people who do not walk through the world in that way. That's what I'm giving you this information to help you to understand, right? This entire form of government, which all over the world is believed to be a superior form of government, was the brainchild of black women. And it was the brainchild of black women because we were the leaders of our households and we wanted to do what was best for our households. We wanted to do what was best for our children and our grandchildren and our great grandchildren. That is how we created this form of government, by sitting down and figuring out what will be best for them. What did our indigenous, our First Nations ancestral mothers teach us? They said, in your every deliberation, you must consider the next 7 generations. This is a way of thinking that comes from the mind of black women. This is your way of thinking. This is a way of thinking that comes from our the head of the household, when we are the head of the nation, decision making. We are not hungry for power's sake. And do you know why? Because we have power that is innate. I've taught you about this time and time again, but I will say it again today. Power over is not power. That is just domination. True power is power of, power that innately is, power that just exists in you as as the way that because of the way that you came into the world, because of the body that you were born into, because of the mind that you were born with. Power that you innately have is true power. Power over is only domination, which is just brutality, right? So when we are allowed to exist in that full power, these are the types of rules and laws that we create. When we are allowed to exist in our full power, we created an actual government for and by the people. That still is in operation today. That still is successful today. That still is viable, and the Haudenosaunee people are still very proud of it and still live under it in as much as they can. It is the longest standing actual democracy. It's the only democracy that has ever actually existed. If we are to use that Greco-Roman term for it, this is the only one that ever existed, because everyone had power, not just rich people and not just people who were born with certain genitalia. Everyone had power, and everyone was listened to by the clan mothers, who were the literal mothers of all. So it's the only democracy that actually ever existed. What we refer to as a democracy in Rome was not a democracy. Only land holding men held power. That's not a democracy by definition. By definition. So I've been thinking about this. This is something that I looked up some documentaries. I forced my children, my grandchild, to watch this while we were celebrating Matakiye Oyasin, which is what my family celebrates on Thanksgiving. We celebrate Matakiye Oyasin, which is a Lakota term that means all of my relations. And we teach the children and the young people that are present about my grandma Ellen, who was a Kituwa woman coming out of a subset of the Cherokee Nation. So we teach her about my grandma Ellen, and then we teach other indigenous and First Nations philosophy. So this is a, documentary that I was forcing my family to watch during our Matakiye Oyasin celebration. And I said, everybody needs to know this, though. Everybody needs to know this. Of course, my children need to know it, but everybody needs to know this. Women, black women in particular, need to know this, because they will go out of their way. And part of what this society does is it goes out of its way to make you feel as if you are unfit to rule, as if you are unfit to make household decisions, as if you are unfit to lead your family, to lead your community. to lead your religious institution. This society will make you feel as though you are unfit to do that, while all the while living under a government that black women created. Then you had a Moynihan report that comes out and says the problem with the black community is that there are too many women-led households. Moynihan, you living right under a woman-led way of government. That's what you're living in right now. This is a matriarchal form of government that we're living in. This was created by the matriarchies, and this is y'all's poor, sorry ass, cheap, imitation of it. This is y'all's dupe of our government. This is y'all's knockoff of our style of government, right? This is the Shein version of our style of government. That's what we living under right now. Y'all looked at ours and said, "Oh, damn, that's fly as hell," and that's working. Look how all the people are fed. Look how all the people are happy. Look how there's no utter and abject poverty. Look how there's no wars. Okay, we gonna do something like that. We don't have the richness of mind and the richness of heart and compassion to do it like that completely, but we gonna create a cheap ass knockoff and then sit somewhere and proclaim ourselves the first democracy. Come on, church. Amen, church. Come on with me. Holla if you hear me. Holla if you hear me. Teach this to your children so that our next generation will not be out here considering women to be intellectually inept to lead and to rule. So that our next generation will not be out here believing that part of life has to be that there are poor people and that there are rich people. Somebody has to suffer. Teach this so that your children will know that in ancient pre-capitalistic times, nobody had to suffer. Suffering was not built into the government. Suffering was not built into the economic structure. The economic structure was not created on the basis of groups of people having to suffer while other groups of people never have to suffer at all. That was not the basis of any economic structure, original economic structure that they are building the cheap knockoff of. Teach your children this. Make sure that your children know this. Make sure that your children know that the entire system that the United States is built on is a black system. And explain what you mean by black. People who look like us, not people who come from sub-Saharan Africa. That's why I'm not saying African. I'm saying black. I'm talking about a phenotype, right? Because we also have to leave behind the thought that this phenotype is somehow less. This phenotype is somehow inferior. This phenotype is somehow incapable of doing X, Y, and Z. It's simply not true. It's simply not true. And the people in power know this because they have to study what I'm telling you right now. The first time I heard of the wampum was in an English class. As I keep telling y'all over and over again, when you are studying English, you have to start with the first written works of the United States of America. And the first written works prior to it becoming the United States of America, the first things, of course, logs of the captains that were of the ships of people that were coming over here. The second thing were the things that they found out about indigenous societies once they got here. This is largely what they were writing about. And then after that, they began to write about their own societies that they were trying to build once they got here. So when I'm giving you this information, it's because in order to get a degree in English, higher level degrees in English, I had to read this. I had to know this. So if I have to know it as just an English teacher, not a political science teacher, I'm not a history teacher, then I know that all of those political science people know it. I know that every lawyer knows it. I know that every politician knows it. A lot of lawyers have English degrees. A lot of politicians have social science degrees. So I'm telling you, right? I'm sorry, political science degrees. So I'm telling you that if I had to know this, if I had to read it and know it, then these people know it too. And now you know it, right? But study it. Dig in. Go further. Get a higher understanding of it. It gives you a better understanding of yourself. It gives you more confidence in yourself. It gives you the ability to stand firm in your decisions, in your thoughts, and in the way of life that you want to create for yourself and your family. And that's what I'm hoping to gift you with. As I said before, I can't read any of these comments on a short road trip. Can't see any of this. But for those who are sending love, obviously, I send it back. For those who are too ignorant to actually properly engage in the conversation, and you are saying stupidity and you are saying dumbness in the comments, then thank you for the example of what we are intellectually superior to. Your troll comments let us know how intellectually inferior you are. So we are grateful for them because they remind us of our own, acumen, our own intellectual acumen, and our own brilliance. All right, I'm going to go. Ecstasy, abundance, and bliss to everyone within the sound of my voice who is wishing the same for me and mine. And as always, we wish the lessons of life on those who are ignorant enough to wish us otherwise. And yes, that includes you trolls in the comments. We wish the lessons of life on you swiftly and in a way that you know that it was me. All right, you guys, enjoy your Saturday, and I will see you in the next one. Please share the